When I was at primary school, we did a project on the Victorian era. I actually really liked that project, and something I always remember learning about that era were something called penny dreadfuls or penny bloods. In the 19th century, printing costs were coming down quite rapidly, and literacy levels were rising in Britain. So publishers began producing these very cheap books made from wood pulp that only cost 1 penny each, which meant that they were very accessible for everyone, including the working classes. For a point of comparison, Charles Dickens' books were selling for about 12 pence a pop in those days. So these were just very cheap, they only cost a penny, and everyone could access them. As well as being cheap, they were also pretty nasty though, at least by Victorian standards. By postmodern standards, we wouldn't think twice about them, but they were very shocking for the time. The content of a penny dreadful story tended to centre around things like thieves, murderers, ghosts, gore, immorality, scandal. And this was really the key to their success. People just went crazy for these books because of that content, and publishers could hardly keep up with the demand. Soon Victorian Britain was being flooded with these books. And what publishers learned from the Penny Dreadful episode was this: that if you want a smash hit, if you want a commercial phenomenon, if you want to make lots and lots of money, there's a part of humanity that you can target, that you can appeal to, that will almost guarantee results every single time. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to call it the base instinct. There's this deep part within us that has an insatiable lust for gossip, slander, violence, gore, illicit sex, depravity. We want to see it, we want to hear about it, we want to be shocked by it, we want to be excited by it. Like a pig in filth, we want to revel in sensational and even dark things. It's just there within us. It's always been there, and it'll be there until Jesus returns. And of course, when TV was invented, this lesson began to carry on into the new medium. TV producers quickly realized that if you want a big show, if you want a commercial success that makes lots and lots of money, appeal to the base instinct. Give people shows about gossip, slander, illicit sex, drugs, depravity, scandal, darkness, shocks. This is how you get eyeballs on your show, and this is therefore how it makes money. As time went on though, a problem emerged, and the problem is this: that you can only shock people with something once. Once an audience has seen that thing for the first time, it becomes normalized and it's no longer shocking. So to keep producing the same effect year after year, you need to keep going further year after year. In the media, therefore, the thought is always, how can we go further next time? How can we push the envelope? What can we do that the world hasn't seen before? What boundaries of taste and decency still exist that can be pushed against and ultimately broken down? And indeed, you'll often hear TV producers and actors talking about pushing these envelopes as though it's an entirely good thing. They'll call it being brave, being courageous, being edgy and groundbreaking, when really it's just about indulging the base instinct to generate a buzz and ultimately generate a lot of money. And that brings me up to this present moment, because we're really getting quite far into this process now. A lot of boundaries have now been broken down over the decades. From the days of penny dreadfuls, we've passed through a number of watershed moments over the years, so that what we're getting served up today is really beyond anything the Victorians or even our grandparents could have even conceived of. We're really getting into quite an extreme and dark place in what gets passed for entertainment. And I was thinking about this week for two reasons. Firstly, because Netflix has just started advertising a movie called Cuties, which pushes the envelope in the realm of paedophilia. If you've been following the Fuel Project for a while, I've been warning that this would be one of the next moral boundaries that they try to push against for a few years now. And Cuties is the story of a preteen girl who leaves a repressed upbringing to gain stardom through sexualized and provocative stage dancing. Netflix have now apologized and removed the original poster that showed the children in a provocative pose, but the buzz is now being created, the shock factor's done its job, and lots of people are going to watch it now. Therefore, it's going to make a lot of money. And the second reason I've been thinking about this is because Cardi B released a song called WAP. Now, it was difficult to think of how much more extreme the music industry could actually get, but somehow this song manages to do it, both in terms of the lyrics and the video content itself. And again, the tricks worked. It's got the shock factor, it's got the buzz, the clicks, it's generated a lot of money for the artist. And this has always been a very reliable equation. The more base something is, the more shocking, the more it pushes the envelope of taste and decency, the more people will be drawn to it because of the base instinct, and therefore the more money it's going to make. The people involved always make the same defense. They say they're doing something brave, something groundbreaking or empowering, but all that's just nonsense. It's not brave to sexualize children. It's not brave to take off your clothes. It's not empowering women to take off your clothes. It's simply about appealing to the base instinct because that's a reliable way to make a lot of money. It's been that way forever, since at least the Victorian era, and therefore these people are effectively just profiting off the degradation of society. Now the problem is this: the constant drive by people in the media, music and entertainment business to hack away at moral boundaries for a bit of money and notoriety can only last for so long. Because if you keep hacking away at the moral foundations of society, eventually the house is going to fall in. Our whole civilization is built upon a moral foundation, given to us by the Bible, by the way. And this foundation underpins our ideas of right and wrong, our laws, the way we treat each other. It just underpins every aspect of society. And if you keep hacking away at that moral foundation, decade after decade, in a bid to make a short-term buck, the whole thing's going to fall in on itself. There's only so much ground you can take. Again, it was Christianity that gave Western civilization that moral foundation, and that's long been hacked at in the media. Christianity's been scorned and mocked in the media for decades, really. But as you hack away at Christianity and the morality that Christianity bestowed, you are in fact destroying the foundations of civilization itself. I mean, remember Sodom and Gomorrah? It was destroyed. Why? Because the moral foundations had collapsed and it fell into moral decay. The Roman Empire collapsed. Why? Because the moral foundations collapsed and it fell into moral decay. A civilization cannot stand without its moral foundations. We need to cherish them and love them. And if Western civilization collapses, it'll be for the same reason as those two civilizations, because we consistently attacked our moral foundation instead of cherishing them, because we even rewarded those who were attacking our moral foundation and our faith and our values and our way of life in the media. We made them rich, even as they undermined the very ground that we stand on. See what I mean? And it'll only get worse, because Cardi B and cuties are maybe shocking to us right now, but next year that'll be old hat, that'll be old news. And if someone wants to push the envelope even further, they'll need to do something even more extreme. And the year after that, they'll need to go further again. There's no end to this. There's no way that this moral degradation doesn't end in a Sodom and Gomorrah type situation unless we make a conscious choice to stop attacking our moral foundation and to stop rewarding those who attack our moral foundation for a quick buck. What we are witnessing today is a culture determined to pursue entropy and degradation, often in hope of a bit of short-term wealth. And if there's no turnaround on that, then what we are witnessing will eventually be the collapse of Western civilization. A civilization cannot stand without its moral foundation. We need to learn to cherish and love that foundation once again. I think there's a glimmer of hope here though, because I think even atheists are beginning to see this, that since we began abandoning Christianity, our society has started degrading in a myriad of ways, and things are getting pretty immoral and crazy out there. I was on Twitter recently and I saw this thread developing. Derek Thompson tweeted that his view of Christianity in 2005 was, haha, religion is so dumb, if everyone just stops believing in God, we can finally be rational. In 2018 though, he was starting to see that maybe secularization was making things worse. And by 2020, he's saying, everybody go back to church now. Julia wrote, relatable. Seth chimed in, I've had a similar progression. Nicholas tweeted, yeah, in retrospect, I didn't think the victory of new atheism would look like people with deep spiritual views on polyamory. Another writes, I'm an atheist, yet I can't really find fault with this. Colin writes, was it Chesterton who said that when people stop believing in God, they don't believe in nothing, but believe in anything? As an atheist myself, I've often thought he had a good point. Max says, Nietzsche was concerned about this and feared that without God, Western civilization would collapse. Looks like he wasn't wrong. Kristen writes, I've had the same thought. I'm a lifelong atheist, but lately I've been thinking, America needs Jesus. DV writes, we need the second coming. Another quotes John Adams saying, our constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Britta writes, as a sane atheist, I totally agree. Mike looks at himself and says, you all need Jesus. Another writes, this describes my journey too. Another says, it's what Nietzsche was warning us about 150 years ago. Cordy writes, that's been my journey on religion as well. Cherry writes, my exact timeline as well. Nathan says, yeah, I've been feeling this. Eduardo, I've made this journey. Another, yep, pretty much. Tom writes, agreed. Another, this is where I'm at. Same, right there with you. Therefore, I know there are people out there who are beginning to see what I'm talking about in this video. It's starting to dawn on you that since our civilization abandoned God, it has gone into a moral decline, and therefore parts of the structure of our civilization are beginning to crumble too. We do need Jesus. We do need to get back to church. I know there are some people out there who are beginning to realize this. It's beginning to trouble you. And the good news is that God has a promise for us here. He says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sins and heal their land. The promise is there, but we need to choose it. We need to stop attacking our moral foundation and instead rediscover what it was like to love that moral foundation. And if we don't choose to do this, then we're heading for a Sodom and Gomorrah type situation. We're over a century into this process now of degradation and attacking our moral foundation. And there's only so much hacking away you can do at that moral foundation before society collapses completely. Okay, let's wrap it up. Where do we go from here? Well, firstly, let's stop choosing to reward those who are actively profiting off moral degradation. Let's not give our clicks and attention and money to those who are actively hacking away at our values and moral foundations, because it'll just encourage them to do it more. If it keeps working, if it keeps making the money, then they're going to keep doing it. So let's say no to that base instinct within us that they're trying to target and appeal to and lure in. And instead, let's do as the Bible says. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. That verse takes on a new resonance for us today, because if we choose well what we're entertained by, that's not only good for ourselves, but it also means that we're not encouraging anyone else to profit from moral degradation. Secondly, if you're an atheist and you're one of those ones who's starting to see that connection between abandoning God and societal decay, and you're just beginning to ask some questions, I actually did a series on this a few years ago called Stay Free: Why Society Can't Survive Without God. Subscribe to this channel, go watch that series, and any others if you like. And if you want to speak to a Christian directly about this stuff, you can also go onto the Fuel Network. You'll be able to make contact with a Christian close to you there. You can go out and have some tea and coffee with them. You can ask questions, ask anything you like. And if you're on the Fuel Network already and someone contacts you about this, then I'm really trusting you to be a good witness here, to be solid, and to give lots of good answers. I think also my concern for atheists is this, and I saw some evidence of this in those tweets that we looked at, is that you might be thinking, well, clearly we need some kind of spirituality in society, but I don't want it to be Jesus though, because he would require things of us. And maybe you're thinking that any kind of spirituality would have that required social utility that we're missing, but it won't. The thing is, it has to be Jesus here. See, the Bible prophesies that a global one-world religion will be in place near the end of time, and it will ultimately lead to the Antichrist. And if you trade atheism for that emerging New Age spirituality, then you'll just be trading one mistake for another. Only Jesus fixes this problem that we've got. Also get a Bible and read it, start in Matthew, and go forward from there. Also do check out a church if you can. And I think as Christians, we just need to make sure that if society keeps heading down this road towards moral decay and self-destruction, that we're not going to be a part of that. I mean, if it happens, then it's all under God's control and we'll just have to adapt to that situation when it happens. But we can't be found contributing to that. We can't be found reveling in the sin, even as society goes up in smoke like Sodom and Gomorrah. And finally, let's learn to love our values once again, the ones that did us so much good for so long.